who Desiree. Sorry about that. And yeah, just let it rip, Desiree. It's all yours.
Yeah, no, Josh, we did meet briefly,
Uh-oh.
because I go
Uh-oh.
to almost every event. It's okay, but you're like somebody who came from, from nothing. I know your story pretty well because I go to these events. I watch the podcast. So everybody here who's taking the time to put your training first and to sharpen your business skills and stuff, this is what's going to push you ahead compared to other people and to separate you from other agents. So, Josh, no, we met briefly. And I appreciate everybody that I do meet in this industry because you guys take a moment and you just talk and you pour your heart out. And I've learned just from you and Alondra, just the questions that I've asked you. So, no, never miss an event. And I'm going to Ignite. So put a IG in the chat if you're going to be at Ignite. I'm excited to see everybody. Let's go. Okay, cool. Arizona, firing it up. But yeah, so before I got into the insurance industry, I came from real estate. And prior to that, I dropped out of like nursing school. I don't even know. I got accepted to nursing school, but then I was like, I don't know if I want to go this route. I don't want to pay for school. I don't want to be tied to a job where I have to ask somebody to take some time off and stuff. But after that, I got into real estate and it took me about 7 months to sell my first home. So the first way that I learned sales was I was door knocking, cold calling, putting up flyers at coffee shops. And I was like, man, it's cool that I'm like really hustling to make it happen. But I was like, there has to be another way. And I developed my book of business in real estate and I was actually doing decent. I was doing good. Like the most homes that I sold, and of course it took me time to get there, was about 5 homes, and maybe I made like 40 to 50 grand. And I was like, heck yeah, this is great. But that was all I made that year. I didn't make any money the rest of the year. And I think it's important. So everybody here who's new to the insurance industry, you don't need any crazy innate talent. You just have to have the willingness to work and follow our system. And our system is so simple. That's why I love leads. But what attracted me to the insurance industry is because I wasn't like, not many people are able to buy a home, right? Not many people can afford a $500,000 home. And I would, again, sell 5 homes in 1 month and not make any money the rest of the year. So it was very inconsistent market. I didn't want to be in a sales vehicle that was predicated on a market. So I knew very quickly, I was like, cool. I mean, selling Sunset looked fun, but it's not the reality for most real estate agents. And I think Grady shared this statistic, which is wild. And someone could fact check me. It was like something crazy, like 80% of real estate agents last year who were licensed didn't sell one home. And if that is your like, if that's how you're supposed to make money, and you're not making any money doing that, come here because we're in an industry, and everyone write this down if you didn't know, life insurance is recession proof, which means we have the ability to make money all the freaking time across the country remotely, which is great. And another thing too in real estate is that I was tied to Washington State. So I'm in Washington State right now, and I have to go drive, like show somebody 20 homes, and then would they decide? And if they did decide on offering on a home, which Josh, you probably know, it takes 30 to 45 days to close on a home unless you're like paying in cash. So in that time frame with the transaction, something could happen. Someone could mess up, the lender could mess up, the inspector could scare the buyer away, and then you could lose whatever potential commission you could make. Here, it's like, yo, I could help Mary today. She gets approved, I get paid the next day, and multiple commissions in a day. So there's a number of reasons of why the life insurance industry is so attractive, but more importantly, too, we're really educating and helping people. And it's nice to help somebody sell their first home or help somebody buy their first home. But I think what's really important too is that you get to be a support to somebody who just like during the worst moment of their life where they don't have to worry about finances and they could go be with their family. And again, I'm blabbing, but I'm just so passionate about the industry because I'm passionate about one, helping and educating America because there's 50% of Americans or maybe 60% now that have zero life insurance or they're underinsured, and we're all going to die. So to me, it's not even sales. I tell people and everyone that I like hire or recruit, I'm like, dude, this is not sales. This is literally not sales. We're just educating people. We're helping them make an informed decision. If they love their family, they'll get the policy. If they don't, whatever. I'm going to go find the person that loves their family and wants to get a policy. Because most people do love their families. And you'll come across somebody who maybe doesn't. And cool, I don't want to talk to you. I'm just going to buy more leads and help more people who can make a decision where they're thinking about their family. So that's just a little bit about me. Yeah.
Now, Desiree, can you tell me? Stephen was telling me a little bit about just when you were getting into the business and the bumps and bruises you went through. And I know there was a story that I know Stephen was like, "Dude, you got to have her tell it." And I was like, "I'm in." Can
Yeah.
you just tell me, like, again, it was different. We're in the field, but tell me just because again, I think everybody when they hop on these calls, they're like, dang, she is so sharp. She sounds polished as heck. And then it's really not like that. Everybody kind of goes through the same things early on.
Hmm. Are you talking about the story that I told maybe at convention where oh, that one? Okay, so I want everyone to know, you might hear me on here like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know, this girl, like you said, she seems really sharp." I didn't start that way. I came into the industry and there was one thing that I knew it because I knew nothing about life insurance, like zero. And I just knew I believed in myself and I wanted something more. I wanted something more and I was like, "Cool, just put me through whatever. You want me to call these people? Sure, whatever." And I wish someone told me this, that it was all this industry's one big math equation, right? We need enough leads to talk to enough people. We need enough at bats, right? So it's leads, activity, training. Leads, activity, training. Everything you're going to hear me say, I did not make up. I just watched a lot of trainings. I ripped and duplicated it and all that other stuff. That's why I love this industry because everyone's here to help each other. But write this down. It's so simple. You need leads, you need the right activity, and you need enough training, which is why you're on this call today. And you need a balance of all three. So again, if you are maybe you bought, I don't know, 20 leads and you're dialing, 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 it doesn't matter. That's not enough people to talk to, right? But if you buy 200 leads and you're not doing the right income producing activities like calling them, presentations, talks, objections, whatever it is, going through an e-app, it doesn't matter, right? And then if you have both and you don't have enough training, you're going to keep making the wrong mistakes. So you need all three. And when I started, I was broke. I didn't have enough money to buy leads. So I think I was running old leads. And I didn't look at it from a metric standpoint. I was just like call, call, call. And I was dialing, but I wasn't counting my dials. I was like clocking. I was very inconsistent. Even though I guess real estate was just a little bit different because I didn't know how to work leads. So I wish someone said, "Hey, you just need more than enough leads because you suck right now, and that's going to make up for it." So, anyways, I was calling some old leads and I booked, again, this was in home. So I booked, I think it was 3 appointments or 3 or 4. I was thrilled. I was like, I got 4 appointments and it's in a county 2 hours away from like, or an hour away, hour and a half with traffic, maybe 2 hours. And I had to pay like an $8, $9 toll bridge too. So I had to like trek all the way across. And this was like my first time running solo in-person appointments. And I'm like, this is it. Like, I got to get out of my parents' house. This is it. So I'm driving, and I booked my first 4 appointments and I'm like convinced that I'm going to sell something. I'm like, dude, I got 4. Like, this is it. And everybody knows that you need more than enough appointments because if it's like 50, 60% no show rate, right? You got to account for that. So, anyways, I didn't know that. Drove there and I went to every home and they were all no shows. And I'm a new agent, so I'm ready. I'm like, I'm very sensitive at this point. I was basically super emotional too, because I'm like trying to get out of my parents' house, trying to make it happen, seeing if this thing even freaking works. And I don't know anything. And again, I love that we're in telesales now because a new agent could come in, they could read a script. The client doesn't know you're reading a script. I had to like memorize my full presentation. So I'm nervous. I'm like, okay, I got it. Like, and plus I'm going into like these homes and trailer parks and no offense, I'm just this girl that I'm like, man, should I bring my gun with me? I don't know. Like, I didn't know what to do. So, anyways, a lot of new things happening. I go and they're all no shows, right? And again, I'm like, dude, this isn't it. Like this thing doesn't work. But my mindset wasn't working. I didn't know. I didn't set the right expectations, and so I go. And thank goodness I wasn't in my home, like my county, because I would have gone home and like cried or ate ice cream or something. But I I drive there and I'm like, dude, I drove here and it's raining because I'm in Washington State. I'm like, man, I paid the toll bridge. I can't go home now. I can't like fail. This is not it. So I go pull over at a gas station and I'm literally like praying. I'm like, is this it? God, show me some sign. Like, I don't know what the heck's happening. I literally am at a Fred Meyer's gas station and I told the story on stage because this is legit true. And like this lady knocks on my window and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my sign. Like, this is it. And she's like, hey, your gas cap's open. I'm like, wow, this is ridiculous. Like, this is crazy. And then I don't know if it was in that moment of like crying, praying, listening to worship music that I was like, F this. Like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go knock on those homes because I'm not going to drive home empty handed. I'm going to give it one more shot. And so I went back and all of those people were there and I sold all of them. And it was like an 8K day. And I think the power behind that is that if people just give up too soon before that breakthrough. They just give up too freaking soon. Like there's so many quotes and it's so true, guys. It's like you're like two days away from a breakthrough. So and the only thing that will cause you to fail is if you freaking quit. And I love this industry because it works. It really works. We're not selling ice to Eskimos. Like this is what's going on, guys. We are helping people, we're educating them. And Josh, another thing too, I'm so glad I got into the industry and I didn't have any money to buy leads because it forced me to go talk to my family and my friends. And thank God that I went and I talked to my immediate family. My dad didn't have insurance. My mom, my grandma, who was in her 70s. I'm looking at my parents like, yo, how does grandma not have insurance? Because she like lived with us at the time. And my dad's the primary income earner. And I'm staying at home. I'm broke. Like my mom's a stay-at-home mom. And if something happened to him, we're losing the home. And it forced me again to help my mom, dad, grandma, uncles, aunts, cousins. And I've been to a lot of funerals. I just didn't know how expensive insurance was. I didn't know thousands and thousands of dollars and that death bill is going to somebody. And I don't want to have to donate to a GoFundMe. I'm sure put a one in the chat if you've freaking donated to a GoFundMe before. Put a
Yep.
one in there. A lot of people, right? And I'll tell everyone who's brand new too, who if you're like, dude, I want to talk to my warm market. I don't want to go bug them. I don't want to sell them something or be that weird cousin at Thanksgiving. I'm like, I used to be that way because I had to do it in real estate. And so when I came here, the person that hired me, I said, dude, don't freaking talk to me about talking to my family. But then I was broke. So I was like, shit, I gotta, excuse my French. Shoot, I gotta go make a way. I gotta go find out what's going on. And I went and I talked to my family. And now when I make a decision, if I'm like scared to make a decision or like, oh, they're going to judge me and it's something to do with my industry, now I don't think twice about it. But when you're new, you're like, dude, I don't want to sound salesy. And I promise you guys, you're not sounding salesy because at the end of the day, if your cousin or aunt, let's say it's your aunt, and if something happens to her and she dies prematurely and you were the licensed agent in the family and you didn't freaking tell her, that will eat you alive and haunt you. So that's how I make decisions. I'm like, huh, will I regret not saying this? Like, will this haunt me if I'm standing at her funeral? If I just don't say, hey, I can help you get a policy. And if she says no, whatever, I'll live with that and I'll move on. So that's how I like to make decisions. Is like if I'll regret it, right? Because if it's something that's going to cause regret, then I'm like, dude, I'm going to do it because regret's so painful. Regret doesn't cost like that's going to haunt you more than money that you could make. So I'm going to go make that decision. And there's a lot of things that happen in that first year of me being I was not a great agent. I would say I was just inconsistent, unorganized. I really ran the whole motto of what Sean had talked about, run fast, break things. I'm that kind of way because and please, if anyone's like analysis or paralysis by analysis, put a 2 in the chat, right? Because if I'm like, man, there's this script and this vendor and this and this and this, I just don't move. I'm the type of person like if I dip my toe in the water, I won't jump in. Someone has to push me. That's why when new people come in, I'm like, hey, don't think about anything else. Just do this. Read this script, dial them 3 times, hop on Zoom, unmute. Don't worry about anything else. We'll help you with product. Cool. Now hop on the product training. And I try to help people take it step by step because it can be overwhelming and it's like you're drinking from a fire hose. But I try to make it super simple because I knew the way that I learned is that someone just has to freaking push me in and like give me like bite-sized chunks until I could figure it out. Because if it's too overwhelming, I won't act. And we all know like if you're not acting, like action is like the way to make things happen here. Not like, oh, let me go read about the IUL and this product and this product. And I was guilty that I didn't want to talk about the IUL or sell one because there was, there's a lot. It seems like there's a lot of moving parts, but we really simplify it. It's like, hey, you have a product that gives you a death benefit. You could access it while you're alive if you had any of these illnesses, and then boom, it grows you some cash value, and you could access all of those things in the event of emergency. So, but anyways, that was like the story.
What I love, Desiree, about that is that I think so many people can relate. They're just not in a place to where they can share that yet. They haven't seen the fruits of their labor come back. But I'm a big I was always on the road, right, in the field, and I had to be listening to something that's going to put me in the right state of mind, right? And for me, I'm a big Steve Harvey guy, and it brings me back to
Yeah.
that everybody's got a turn back moment where they could go back, and if they went that way, the one thing that's for sure is that it's never going to happen. Like Desiree, if you quit on that day and you said, hey, these 4 appointments, this business sucks. I spent $40 on gas and tolls. Guys, we've all been there. I promise you, like we've all been there. But look at like when you literally like, dude, I'm not going to fold. I'm literally just going to continue to do the work that everybody else has paved before me and do the same exact thing. Look how good it's gotten. So everybody on the call, like if you're in that pain moment now, guys, we've all been there. And I just want you to know that like everybody on stage, everybody that's doing well in the business, they're not immune to just not going through this stuff. And that's what I love about your story, Desiree, is because I can relate with that. Because for the first year, it was a dogfight. And I think a lot of people, again, you're in the dogfight now. You might not be on that role yet. You might not have put the reps in, but guys, this is literally a leads, work ethic, consistency business. If you do those things, I promise you are going to be success in this business. Desiree,
Yeah.
next thing, you're writing a ton of business, right? You're recruiting a ton of people. Can you just kind of talk me through like if how are you finding people? And then two, how are you getting them to write business so fast? And what are you looking to have them sell? Like what's the game plan for a new agent?
Yeah, yeah. So, how I find people, and it's funny because I was found through a social media post by somebody I went to high school with. So I actually am not, I don't like social media. I think I get sucked in. I start looking at everybody's thing and then I'm not being productive. So for me, I leverage it to bring people in and just let them know about the industry. So number one, how I've been finding a lot of people, and I think some of them are in here. I found a lot of people through TikTok and Instagram. So right now, and I'm not, I already know my strengths and weaknesses, like for the most part. Like I'm always trying to be aware of that. And one of my weaknesses is I'm not like very creative and I don't like social media. So then I like came across partnering with somebody who was good at that. And I was like, hey, I don't like it's scary to be in front of a camera for the most part, but I have to, my goals are bigger than what other people think, right? And everyone knows like it's natural for people to care about what other people think, but your goals and your why has to be bigger than that, because at the end of the day we're here for, like, again, a mission. We're here for our business, our industry. Because most people will work 40 to 50 hours a week for somebody else, but then when it comes to their company they cut corners, and you have to like attack that with that tenacity. And it wasn't easy, but I just sat there and I was like, man, I hate like speaking in front of a camera. I hate like my what are my CrossFit friends going to think that I just keep posting about work or whatever. Like, and I thought about that and I was like, no, there's a bigger purpose, there's a bigger mission for that. So I hired someone who was like, hey, let's do these content ideas. I was like, whatever, just have me speak in front of the camera. And then I did, and then we posted. I used to never post on social media. And now, if you guys don't have my Instagram, just search Desiree Blas and follow me. But I post right now like 3 reels a week on Instagram, and I take the same thing and I post it on TikTok. But for whatever reason, TikTok has blown up where that's where I'll get the most DMs. And after that, what I do is I took this method from, I think, like Zach and Ronnie do this method and Grady, and I say, hey Josh, the old DM me, hey Desiree, I want to learn about being a life insurance agent. I'm like, great, here are 2 videos to watch thoroughly. Please watch them thoroughly. Here's the Zoom link, or schedule yourself right now. I used to do one-on-one Zoom calls like to interview people. Now I'm doing like group Zooms. I'm trying to fit as many people as possible, do like one 30-minute call, see if somebody's into it or if they're a good fit. And so I'll have them watch 2 videos. One is like Marissa's overview video, but everyone knows Steven's video that he did. I used to use that one, and then Marissa made one. And then I use that. It's 12 minutes. They go over like the industry. And then I use Zach's FAQ video. So if you haven't watched that, definitely watch that. It talks about, I think, how we get paid, chargebacks, all that stuff. I have them watch both those videos, and then they hop on the call. And then, of course, I see if they watch those videos. I'll be like, great, Josh, did we meet on TikTok? Wonderful. Hey, did you watch those videos I sent? And you're going to say, yeah, I did. Great. And now people will say yes, and I know this, and they don't watch the videos. And I'm like, hey man, cool. Tell me one thing that really stood out to you. And depending on how like they answer or respond, I'll know. And if they didn't watch it, I'll just get off the phone with them, or I'll say, hey, go watch the videos and hop on the next one. Cause like I know you didn't watch it. And I'll just call them out. Like, cause again, you're testing to see who could follow instruction. Because if they can't do that, they won't be able to triple down. They won't be able to hop on the call. They won't be able to buy leads. They're not coachable. So working with someone who's coachable is very important to me. Um, so anyways, let's say you go through that. We give people 2 weeks to take the course. And I'm like, hey, dude, we'll pay for your coursework. You just got to take it in 2 weeks, right? It's 20 hours of content. Like, it's online, right? And sometimes I'll ask what they'll do previously. And sometimes we have, I think Sarah, who's on here, she's like a dental assistant or a hygienist. And if you're in like the medical field, you have like 1,000 clinical hours to do. But I'm like, yo, this is 20 hours online. You don't have to physically go somewhere. 14 days, like, not like, knock it off, like, you got it, right? Or I'll say, hey, I know somebody who has a family and a full-time job, and they took it in like a week, so you could for sure take it in less than 14. We're actually giving you extra days. And so after that call, have them send me a screenshot of their exam if they're like in a not restricted state or whatever, and then we email them the course, right? And I'm like, hey, 2 weeks, that's what you got. Then you kind of see who actually makes it through, because we all know, again, it's like leads, it's a numbers game. And after that, We hop on, I think they watch like a boot camp. Then we get them contracted, and through contracting, because it takes like 2 to 3 to 4 days, I'm having them plugging into training. I give them the script. We do script training. And then after that, they buy leads, and they're kind of getting after it for the most part. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I hope you took notes on that because again, that is so straightforward and so X, Y, and Z, Desiree. I love it. But again, guys, how many of us, and I've been guilty a ton, we'll hire someone and we give them our absolute all, and they're not matching us, right? They tiptoe all the steps. They're like, hey, where are you at in your contracting? Where are you at in your boot camp? And we're tracking them down, right? It's like and guys, look at the relationship. How is it already being built? So by the time they get their codes, you're chasing this agent just to buy leads. And then they never buy leads. And you're like, dude, I invested so much time and energy in this person. They never do
Dude, yeah.
anything, right? And Desiree, what I love, you're leveraging other people, right? So guess
Mm-hmm.
what? When she's having these new agents watch Marissa, one, that's leveraging the system, but two, she's also showing that, hey, when I connect them with Marissa, when they get all their codes, Marissa's already going to have that high ground. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you saw me in the video, and she didn't say that, right? But she's like, they've already got some sort of respect for her, which is great. And guys, this is what we're trying to get you guys to do with Steven and all the other leaders in the group. Just get them connected with your people. Because again, it's not just Desiree. Like I'm sure she wants her agents to know multiple leaders by the time they come in, so they're comfortable asking more people than just her for guidance and help. So Desiree, you got me contracted. I'm sure you're hiring a bunch of people. I love the social media piece and guys, you're turning warm market into cold market, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
turning cold market into warm market. I got that backwards. Because guess what? When we get Sarah and you recruit her, we're going to be like, Sarah, who else do you think would be great at this business? Who can do what you just did? Go through the process and get licensed. Who's unhappy with their current, medical assistant job, not making enough money? Guys, we just tap root into that person, and you can get 5 to 10 more people. That guess what? Now Sarah's building her team from day one and helping her. So
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Next
And I
thing.
want to say one more thing too, Josh. So like at the end of my interviews, and I'll say this, I'll be like, "Hey, Sarah, one of my biggest regrets when I was brand new, because it took me, side note, like it took me a very long time to recruit because I was just like, I just wasn't, I wasn't organized. I didn't know what I wanted until I went to my first event, and we could talk about that later. But I tell people, hey, one of my biggest regrets, and this is like my group interview at the end of everything. One of my biggest regrets is that I did not tell people about this industry. I was like a secret agent. I thought I had to be successful before I like talked about it. And I was like, hey, that is one of my biggest regrets, because you guys are all here on this Zoom for a reason. You are here because you hate your job. You want something more. You want to be paid what you're worth. You don't want to work for somebody else. Whatever it is, there are other people that you know right now that are in the same position as you. And I really think, Josh, like-minded people are around like-minded people. So if I just went over the qualities and my cousin, my coworker, this and that, they could also start now too. What I would say is just plug us in a group chat. I'm going to literally put them through the same system I put you through. Watch the videos, hop on a Zoom. Let's see if this is going to be a good fit. If not, whatever, I'll let you know. But you don't have to worry about anything. I'll do that. I hire them, and they'll be on your team. I'll train them. You don't have to worry. I'm doing all the heavy lifting for you right now, but I really, really, truly believe that like we got to start right now, because there are other people who don't know about it. And I'm going to tell you all the regrets that I made, and I want you guys to make the right decision. So just plug us in a group chat. And so I go over that with people as well too, which I think is vital, because, oh, and another thing too, the reason why it took me, and I say this sometimes to new agents, is that like one of my mentors, it could have been Marissa. Marissa will call me out. I really love being around people who will just be very transparent and be like, dude, what the hell are you doing? But I remember when I was new, she was like, why are you scared to like tell people about this industry? And I was just like, man, I just want to do good. Like, I just want to do good first. And she said, that's probably one of the most selfish things you could probably say, because their success has nothing to do with your success. Everybody on here, this is a 1099 independent contractor. Like, you're an independent contractor, and the system plays itself. Like, your success has nothing to do with my success, because you get enough leads, activity, and training, you're set. Like, you could hire someone and they could freaking crush you. Like, they could blow past your numbers, and it has nothing to do with you. So that's another thing that really helped me see, like, oh, it is selfish if I don't talk about it, because my success has nothing to do with their success. Because you have your own path, but same system, your own path. So that's another thing too that really helped me.
I'm gonna talk you up a little bit because I think that's huge. Guys, that's what good looks like in FFL. Like when you're willing as an upline, Desiree, you don't have to do that. And I know there's a lot of people that don't do that. But if you are on the call and you're on our team, you are blessed because again, having uplines that are like, hey, whatever I can do to help you build, connect me with those people. I want to pour into them. I want to get them going. Like, guys, not everybody does that. And I think it's huge. And Desiree, kudos to you and your team. And I know that's a trickle down from Sean and Marissa and everything that they've done. Because again, this is a copycat game, and what good will copy good, right? And bad will copy
Right.
bad. We've seen both. But it's awesome to hear that because that's fostering, just the right culture and the right team unity for everybody else coming on board. So Desiree, you are getting a ton of people to get going in IULs quick, is from what my
Mm-hmm.
understanding. How are you doing that? And how aren't you losing people like, dude, this is so much info. It seems
Yeah.
like, because that's what I've seen. Like early on, they're like, it's like you said, we're drinking from a fire hose. We're like, it's coming from all ways. America, mutual. What are we doing? Like, how are you
Yeah.
simplifying that process and getting your agents paid fast with IULs?
Right. So, right when someone starts, and I took this method from Jamie Cheerio, he does like a 2-call close for the most part. So I'll have the new agent come in. So let's say you're contracted, you did your boot camps, you have specific carriers. And right now we're really trying to push like simplified issued IULs. I started off where like NLG's like been my number one carrier that I've been going to, but we all know with fully underwritten, it could take 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. And I know they're working on it, which is great. But if the new agent has to get paid, we got to like also look at other avenues. So like right now, and I think Riyadh, who's on this call, him and I had partnered together to do trainings and stuff, which he's been a huge blessing. So shout out to Riyadh. Put an RM in the chat. Put an RM in the chat. Riyadh's awesome. But anyway, so we're trying to push simplified issued IUL. But a new agent will come in. I'll say, hey, this is going to be so easy. I just like to simplify everything. This is going to be so easy because we're going to give you a script. You're just going to study the script. Okay, you're gonna call the client. You're not sitting in front of them or anything, so you could just read the script and be very familiar with the script. And so the first script, we have like a script 1 and a script 2. Script 1 is just the discovery call, which means the new agent is getting the initial contact with the lead, and they're going through like the script, and basically they're getting the client information, the client inventory, and they find out if the client obviously could qualify for a whole life or an IUL. If that's the case, we all know this. Everybody who knows this on this call, a whole life policy and an IUL, they have the 3 major components. There's still a permanent death benefit, guys. There's some form of a living benefit. So we know whole life only has terminal illness. That's still a living benefit. And IUL has all 3. And so again, the IUL and the whole life policies, they have 3 of the same components: death benefit, living benefit, and some form of a cash value. We know the IUL is the one that's on steroids. They have all the living benefits, and they have, expedited cash value and all that stuff. So new agent will come in, they'll call, and like we're really focusing on just them getting comfortable talking to a client, like talking to a lead. It's gonna feel uncomfortable. We have some people who came from customer service. I'm like, okay, you're too nice. Like, so really a new agent will come in. We're focusing on just like tonality, and we're focusing on I like this method AAA, which you've heard of, like agree, ask, attack. I want them to get really good at asking a question the moment someone like, gives them an objection. So if Josh is like, I call up Josh, and Josh is like, what are you talking about? Like, I never filled that out. Hey, Josh, no problem, man. It was a little while ago, but you put your date of birth as this, and this. Is that correct? Right? And then they'll say, yes, I go back to the script. So there, I agree means you're saying a neutralizer word. So Josh is like, da, 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 like, I didn't do that, right? You don't fight fire with fire. You let their walls come down. And I'm like, hey, Josh, no problem. That's agreeing, right? You're kind of agreeing it's a neutralizer word. Ask. That's very key because everybody knows the person who asks the most questions wins. If I'm asking questions, I'm in control of the conversation. If the lead is like, who do you work for? How'd you get my information? They're in charge because now you have to answer their question. So I'm always trying to pose a question right after that agreeable statement. Hey, Josh, no problem. This was a little while ago. I don't blame you for forgetting, but this is where you put your date of birth as this, and this, or hey, it came from this email. Now, whatever lead, everyone knows a lead's going to have some important information, whether it be date of birth, goal, email. Use whatever you have on that lead because it's going to help them remember that this is not a random call. They filled it out. Hey, Josh, no problem. It was a little while ago. You put your date of birth as this, and this. Is that correct? Now I just asked a question. That's the second A in there. And then attack means you know the script so well you can navigate back to the script, right? You don't want this to be the first time you're reading the script when you call a client. You got to practice because everyone knows in the first 10 to 15 seconds you're going to get all the objections. So you want to learn how to master that with the agree, ask, attack method. So a new agent comes in, we're working on tonality, and if everyone's going to write down tonality, you're sounding like a doctor or a detective. Okay, a doctor or a detective. You're not going to be like, hey, Josh, this is Desiree. I'm just calling in. No, because that screams telemarketer. So if I came in, I was like, hey, Josh, this is Desiree, right? I'm sounding like a doctor or a detective. You're not like a jerk, but you're like some kind of authority in your voice. Like, hey, I got this information. I got to get back to you. And I think the psychology of the sale is so important because it starts with this before even reading the script. And I tell this to new people too. You are the financial professional here. These people filled out a request. It's not like you're cold calling or getting their number off of Google or something. They filled it out and they're saying, hey, help me. I need some information. So you need to come to the call like that. Don't be, it is nerve wracking, but just remember that they filled it out and you need to help them. All we're figuring out, Josh, is, hey, did they get the information or did they not? Let's just put them in a yes or a no bucket. I don't want a middle ground of like, oh, they were at work and they didn't tell me, like yes or no, right? So it's like yes or no bucket. And so new agent just focused on tonality and just calling people on the AAA method. And then also in the script one, just having them really good at asking the client inventory questions, right? The health questions, the finance questions, and then any DUIs, records and stuff, and then asking the golden question. And so we break that down in bite-sized pieces. Hey, Josh, I really want you to get good at asking these questions. Like for example, if we go into the medical questions and a new agent's like, hey, Josh, did you ever have a heart attack or a stroke before? And I'm like, no, no, no. You got to have that cadence of your rhythm of asking the questions. Hey, Josh, I'm going to go through some medical questions right now. Any heart conditions like heart attack, stroke, any stents, blood thinners, anything like that. So we're really teaching them how to gather all that information. Now, if somebody says they do have a diagnosis, we know one thing too, or two things we have to get. When were you diagnosed with that? What medications are you taking? So that's what we're really focusing on with the new agent because they need to be thorough with their underwriting because the IUL is so strict with underwriting, right? Because we know there are some simplified issued carriers. If you take 3 or more high blood pressure medications, it's a decline. So we got to tell the new agent, hey, you got to get all that information and also become a professional too. Because like, for example, we don't have a medical background. So if someone's like, they pronounce neuropathy incorrectly, the client's going to be like, dude, do you even know what you're doing? Like, Google it. If someone's like, they say a medication you don't know, just Google it, right? Don't be like, I don't know what that medication is, Mary. That's already going to scream like not professional, right? So, we're teaching them how to be resourceful. We're teaching them to look up certain things. Thank goodness. And I know I have some nurses who we've hired. We don't have to know the components of how high blood pressure medicine works. Like, we don't have to know the chemical imbalances or whatever. We just have to Google the medication and the condition and be like, cool, right? There's only so many things that could go wrong with the human body, and we just have to know the basis or the basic surface level. So we really work on that stuff. We have them explain the basic points of an insurance policy, whether it be IUL or whole life. Then we ask them what their goal is. They get a contribution amount. And then they book an appointment with the specialist, which would be myself. We just want them to watch like maybe 1 or 2 applications or presentation assistants, whatever you want to say, so they could get familiar with it. And then they're learning illustration stuff after they work on script one. Then script two is really like closing the deal, going over specific things. We want the agent to know, like, which company or caps or participation rates. We don't want them to explain it to the client unless the client asks. So we really break that down, but we want the agent to know that. So that's pretty much our process. And we have a Zoom room and we're very big on like, hey, share your screen, hey, record your call, so on and so forth. So that's pretty much the process.
Guys, first off, great job. I love hearing it because again, guys, everybody's doing the same thing, right? Like everybody winning at a high level is doing the gist of the same thing, Desiree, right? With the IUL, so are you guys booking an appointment initially, or we're treating it like when we get them on the phone, we're going to go through that first presentation and then try to book another appointment after that?
Yeah, so the discovery call should be about 10 to 15 minutes for the new agent. Because in that discovery call, they're kind of finding out if they're qualifying for an IUL or not. Because I want new agent to go through client inventory, to ask medical questions. Like as we know with like diabetes, for example, hey Josh, you have diabetes, anything like that? Yeah, I do. Pills or insulin or both?
Okay.
Pills. What pills are you taking? We write it down. Cool. What was your last A1C? We want them to know like what those questions are, and then they book the call with myself or someone who's done it before. And then the goal for the new agent is to watch, we'll share our screen, we'll pull up an illustration, they'll see us do it a couple times, and then they're going to be one call closing, doing it themselves. So really the 2 call scripts just for a brand new agent getting introduced and launched into the IUL. Then when they're doing it solo, we want them to 1 call close all day.
I love it. I love it. And that makes so much sense. And the new agent is getting, they're going through pretty much the whole process until they get to the app. So what you
Yeah.
guys are walking it through, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And guys, I
And
love that. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say for everybody who's new on here, I think the most terrifying thing for a new agent is just the e-app. That's it. But once you do the e-app just a couple times, or the illustration, you just do it a couple times, it's going to make so much sense and it's easy. They're all the same, right? Cash, minimum death, max cash. And then this company says it a little different, but it's the same function. So after you watched a couple times, you're fine. And I would encourage new agents too, and I have new agents do this as well. Thank goodness Americo has a demo e-app. Like, you could go in there and just like get familiar with the software and the questions, and they're all pretty much the same, like IUL to IUL product, whole life to whole life product. Do it with Americo a couple times. You won't be super shocked when you're on the phone with a client, but also you'll watch us do it a couple times and we'll share our screen.
Right. No, I love that. And guys, she hit on a lot of good stuff. And again, I hope you're writing this down, but like the tonality of a doctor or detective, I think that's huge because I think a lot of people, Desiree, and I'm sure you would agree, when they get on, we want the client to just feel like, like what we think would sound good isn't what sounds good, right? When we
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of us are guilty. And guys, that's all just reps. And that's why it's so important, guys. If you are not like Desiree, what's the protocol for like new agents being on Zoom? Like, do you have anybody that's, oh no, I'm good on that. Like, I'm just not going to be on Zoom.
Dude, I don't want to work. I tell them straight up, I'll be like, listen, if you can't hop on Zoom, I can't help you. Like, I'm sorry. If I'm training 20 people, I just match you where you're at, match your effort. I see who's messaging me, like Sarah, who's literally brand new. Sarah right there. She's brand new, and her first day she wrote an e-app. Her second day she wrote an e-app, and she's like the epitome of a really good coachable agent who she'll call me and I don't answer, and she's like, "Hey, I just came across this objection and I just wanted to get your opinion on it." And I'll give her the feedback cuz she's 3 hours ahead of me. So sometimes I'm like, "Oh shoot, she's on." And like she'll say, "Hey, I need help with this objection." I'll send a voice memo or I'll call her, and then I hear her on Zoom live with the same feedback I just gave her. It's like you need that live feedback, but you have to be hungry for it. And I promise you, if you any new agents on here and you're like, "Man, I want to get some help," if you're putting in the right activity and you're there, you're on the calls, your camera's on, you're participating, any active agent, including myself, would love to help you. If you're productive, I would love to help you. If you're not coachable, I don't want to work with you. And I say that on my interviews too. I'm like, hey, if you're not coachable, I don't want to work with you. I don't care how many policies you wrote before. I don't care where you came from. Like, it's a clean slate here. And Sean just said this on one of his recent trainings, which I think getting around the right people is very helpful to help with your mindset. But he said, hey, the real interview is your first 2 weeks here, not when I interviewed you before. It's like, what kind of like, can you match with your actions, right? Oh, you're this big, you came from this, you did this, you're going to kill it. Let's see what you're going to do when can you actually consistently dial? Can you still show up the next day if you didn't make a sale? Like that, the first 2 weeks when you have your numbers and you could dial, let's see what you could do from there. So huge, right? Working with coachable agents, but Zoom is a requirement for sure. For sure. And then Rion and I have been doing trainings together Monday through Friday. And I just said this yesterday because like I love helping people, but I also don't like repeating myself sometimes. So we'll train and we've been recording it. And I'm like, hey, if you're working with me actively and you can't make these trainings because you're working somewhere else, cool. Watch the recording. Don't ask me the same question twice. So I make that a requirement if we're going to be working together, just because we're moving at a high level. And I want to see who could actually like listen, who's the most coachable, who's there. And that's where I'm spending most of my time and giving my energy to.
I think that's so big. Sarah, we love this for you, by the way. Keep doing that work. But I think it's huge. Like, guys, agents on the call, whether you're a brand new agent or a solo agent, or you got a small team, are you an agent you would want to work with? Right. And I think that's so big because again, a lot of times I'm like, damn, I wouldn't want to work with me. If we really looked ourselves in the mirror and say, like, hey, am I doing the things that like Desiree, when she interviewed me for, am I meeting the expectations that I agreed upon that I was going to do, right? And again, you're not hurting Desiree's feelings and you're not hurting mine or Steven's feelings, but at the same time, we're gonna run with the runners. Like there's no more of this, like we're gonna carry people to the finish line. Like we got to do it together. And I think that's huge. And I love that. And guys, if it's never too late to start the good practices, right? Like I've had agents where they're like, dude, I've been out of it for 90 days. I'm gonna get on Zoom. And then guys, they come out and start killing it. And they're some of the best people I work with. So it might not be the right time and the right person, but a lot of times it's the wrong person with the right time. They just aren't the good fit, right?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that either. So, which I love.
No, it's all a timing thing too. And it's honestly, it starts with, because we could do a lot in this industry, guys. You could make a sale your first couple days. Like Sarah just made a sale her first day, but does it take longer for a different yes, it's different. It could be your first week, your first month, but it really depends on you and your mindset of like how committed are you, right? Like are you going to let a little rejection bring you down? Like keep that momentum going. So it really starts with you. Do you think you deserve to be here? Do you think that you deserve XYZ? And it starts with your action. And another thing too, this is what really helped me, and I heard Hermosi say this because I know a lot of people might be nervous or they might be anxious, and he's always like action alleviates anxiety. Every single time that you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do this, this, and this, just, hey, the right action, guys, just dial. Just dial. I know you're thinking about this, this, and this, just dial. And the more you get, the more you dial, the more reps you put in, the better you get. So if you know you suck, just put in more reps. It's like really simple. Just put in more reps. And we're just talking to people, and there are people here who English is like their third language and they're killing it. And that's why I love going to these events because you'll see people with massive success on stage from different walks of life. And I'm like, if that guy could do it, I could do it. Because that's why they always say this business is 95% mindset because it's so freaking true. It really starts with you. What do you tell yourself? Right? How committed are you? Are you going to let a little compromise bring you down? Like, don't compromise with yourself. We know this. Hey, dial, freaking figure it out. You have the script, you have the mentorship, you have all of this. It's what you decide. So that's why I love this industry.
I love that. And guys, it's funny you brought that up, Desiree, because my upline or the person that hired me was born in Afghanistan. He was like new to speaking English over the last like 2 years. So I'm like, if this guy can do it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't make any excuse, right? I've got no accent. Like, what are they going to say? What am I going to say to myself? But I think that's huge, and I love that. Now, can you talk about like keeping it simple, right? Simplified issue, which I love. I think a lot of times people want to go in the weeds and they're like, well, this is going to give them better interest and this is going to blah, 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 blah. And then what happens, guys, from what I've seen, we put them with these carriers that don't have instant decisions. They take the underwriting takes a long time. We get we get that client decline. And guess
Mm-hmm.
what? If I go back to the client 4 or 5 days later, they're not going to trust me as much. And they're not going to want to do business. Because again, the emotion's gone. It's hard to recreate that over the phone. Can you just tell me like why mutual, why America, why are we doing this simplified issue IUL stuff?
Yeah, I always talk about like speed to the lead. And it's so crazy, Josh, because I didn't have all the answers. Like when we were transitioning to IULs, I was just figuring it out and stumbling and falling forward. And so recently I was like, oh my gosh, why are people booking appointments too far out? Because, if we get a bunch of new agents and they look at my schedule and it's like super far out, I'm like, no, we have to do speed to the lead, right? You guys shouldn't be booking appointments more than 48 hours in advance. But you guys know one thing too, it's that the likelihood of a no-show is very high with telesales, very high naturally. It doesn't matter how good you cement the appointment, but yes, we should work on cementing the appointment. But write down speed to the lead. So from the moment that Josh fills out his IUL ad online, he's like hyped. He's like, I want to get this IUL. So if you delay contacting him, you delay like getting him that information, the sizzle's going to die down. He's going to go fill out another form. And this literally has happened to me where I was traveling or something. Someone filled out a lead on a Sunday. I didn't get to them till Tuesday or Wednesday. And I call up the person finally because I'm like settled. And he's like, yeah, no, I already wrote an IUL this morning. And I'm like, what? You just filled out? Yeah, I know. I filled out another form. Basically, that's what he said. And I was like, what the F? Okay, speed to the lead. So I'm teaching new agents, like, you guys got to get a hold of that person as soon as possible. And then also either like transfer the call to me if I'm available or book it later that day and we'll figure it out. Right. So another thing too is not only talking to them about the information, but getting them approved. Because if Josh was hyped about getting this IUL, I show him this pretty illustration. I'm like, hey man, this is what your cash value is going to look like. Also, it comes with the living benefits. You're going to get this as a death benefit for your wife as your beneficiary, blah, blah, blah. He's like, cool, this is awesome. He sits in underwriting for like 2 to 4 to 3 weeks or whatever it is. And maybe he gets declined. And now it's like, you're going backwards and you have to like recreate what that is for that person. So simplified issued is good for the client so they could get protected immediately. And then number two, also for the agent, it pays a little bit better. And we just know that the client's going to get helped right away. So I think that's uberly important is just understanding, hey, client gets protected right away and they get what they were looking for instead of going somewhere else. And then also it helps the agent get paid as well too.
And guys, for those of you that are overthinking this, guys, like, well, gosh, that might be good for us, but not best for the client. Blah, blah. Guys, the best policy is the one that's going to approve them, right? And I've
Mm-hmm.
always said that, like, if you can get your client approved and then it takes a week or two, like now you're doing yourself and the client a disservice because you were thinking too much, right? Because I don't know about you, Desiree, I want stuff handled. Like if I'm a client and I'm calling about car insurance, I don't want to wait a week to know if I got approved for car insurance.
100%.
Get me freaking
100%.
insurance. Like, let's get it done, right? Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to talk to someone else. Like, can we just get it done? And I think that's so
Yeah.
huge. So don't overthink it. Keep it simple. Desiree, last thing I kind of want to touch on, like, how are you explaining the IUL for the client? Like, how are
Yeah.
you keeping that process simple to it doesn't just like fly over our heads?
Yeah, 100%. So let's say I do the client inventory with you. We ask the golden question, blah, blah, blah. I'll say, great, Josh, go grab a pen and paper. I have to have you write down the important parts of an IUL. And even me slowing down, you hear my voice like inflection or whatever. And let me backtrack really quick because I tell this to new agents too, is that the client can't see us. So you have to like your voice has to really bring them in. Like you don't want to like sometimes the script is like there's a paragraph. I say don't speed read that. You got to make sure they're tracking what you're saying. So I'll be like, "Hey Josh, so this is what we're going to talk about, okay?" He'll say okay because I can't see him. It's different than in home. In home you could see if someone's paying attention or not. Like if someone's texting, I'll just stop until they look at me because I want your undivided attention. We're making a very important decision that's going to affect you long term. So I have to make sure they're paying attention. So very much like slow down and listen and hear if the client's paying attention. You could hear in their voice. And the more reps you do, the better you'll get at it. But anyways, we'll get to the point. I'll say, hey Josh, go grab a pen and paper. I'm going to go over the really important parts of an IUL. And I'll wait. They'll go grab a pen and paper. And two things happen here. One, if they're really paying attention, they'll grab a pen and paper. Two, if they're not, then they're not serious and I might get off the phone with them right now. Because if they can't go grab a pen and paper, they won't grab their driver's license, they won't grab their banking. So that's kind of a test for me to see how interested or dedicated is the client at this point, which they should be, right? So then you'll grab a pen and paper, we'll move forward. I'll say, hey, I want you to know that the IUL comes with three major things. Number one, a permanent death benefit. Write that down. I slow down, I wait. Cool, you got that? Great. Number two, it comes with living benefits. So Josh, that just means if something were to happen to you, you didn't die, but something crazy happened. You had a heart attack, stroke, cancer. Maybe you became disabled, you can't walk around on your own or feed yourself or something like that happened. You can't access your like most people think of life insurance as death insurance. Like traditional insurance is just you die and your family gets the money. But what if you don't die and you can't go, and I slow down here and I'm like, you can't go back to work. And depending on what you did for work, let's say you were I don't know, a landscaper. Your job is physically hard, Josh. So if something happened and now you can't go make income for your family, you could actually access this policy while you're alive. And I always like to include whatever I found out in the client profile into that section there. Landscaper, doctor, dentist, whatever. Like most people have a physically hard job. I'll insert it in the living benefit portion or whatever. I plug and play with whatever their goal is. Same thing with death benefit. If I'm like, hey, Josh, if your sister's going to be your beneficiary, this is, the death benefit's going to go to XYZ, right? And I'm always plugging that in. So three major components. Number one, the death benefit. Number two, the living benefits, and I describe it tailored to them. And then number three, this is the most popular part that everyone's always talking about, is the cash value. Now, the key thing with the cash value, Josh, is, and I'll pause really quick off the role play, depending again on the client inventory. That's why this is one big puzzle. If
Sure.
you said you had a 401k, that means I know you're familiar with how a 401k works. If you said, and most people do, if they're working with a corporate job and they've been there a long time, they're probably opting into paying for a 401k. So then I might say, let's say you did work for a corporate job and at a bank and you have a 401k that you're contributing to. I'll say, Josh, the third component is the cash value. The key thing with the cash value, your 401k that we had talked about, it grows similarly in terms of it's a long-term vehicle. You're paying into this thing. The thing is, when the market goes up, you're going to earn some money. Now, here's the really cool part. When the market goes down, because we know the market's going to go up and down, you're not going to lose anything. So write down zero market loss. Zero market loss. Okay. Unlike your 401k as well, Josh, and sometimes I'll even ask if they've ever tried to borrow from it. And, depending, let's say he did. So remember, Josh, when you tried to borrow from your 401k, you got taxed and penalized, right? Of your hard earned money. They took a big chunk. Here, you could access this without any penalties and you could access this tax free as the money accumulates over time. Now, again, this is not going to get you rich overnight. This is a long-term vehicle. So I set that expectation and I compare to what you already know. And if you don't know anything about the 401k, I don't bring it up. I don't confuse the client. I just say, hey, we know the market goes up. Great. You're going to participate in the market. When the market goes down, you're not going to lose a penny. That will compound over time. You don't have to, you could sleep well at night. I'll say some words like that. And then I'll say, cool. So remember, Josh, death benefit, living benefits, and the cash value for me to know this so I could structure it. You're going to get the whole thing. I just need to know how to structure it. And so I could tailor your illustration. What's the first important? What's the second important? And what's the third important? And I used to, and again, it's all trial and error. I used to be like, cool, what's the most important thing to you, Josh? And some people are like, all of it. And I'm like, great, but I need to know, I need to know how to structure this. So they're like, well, I want all of it. I'm like, hey, so Josh, right now, tailored to your goals right now, what's the first important, the second important, and the third important? And you have to really like sometimes go back and forth with the client because you need to know how to structure it as an agent that's going to benefit the client. And then sometimes if people are like cash value, right? And sometimes I have an idea of what their goal is, but if I don't, I'll ask the client that. I'll say, what do you want this cash value to do for you? Right? Do you want it to supplement retirement? Do you want to access this for a business venture down the road? Like, what do you want to see this cash value do for you? Well, I just want to be in charge of it, right? So it's okay to ask clarifying questions because, again, this is a product they're going to get married to,
Right.
right? So then they'll pick whatever. And then normally I want to get a contribution amount to plug in the illustration. And I'll say, wonderful. So, Josh, most people contribute into this plan anywhere from 10% or more of their monthly income. And for you, I know you're making about 6 grand right now. That's about 600 bucks. Okay. Is 600 the amount you want to qualify for? Or did you want to see something more than that to help supplement your retirement? Right. I plug in whatever their goal is. And then you'll be like, 600. And here's the key thing, guys. If someone's like, 600 is kind of good, right? Or they don't sound sure. I always like press on that hesitation. I'll be like, hey, Josh, so no worries. Again, we're a little bit behind with your retirement. So we're wanting to help you make sure you don't have to work in your 60s and 70s or 80s, right? So let's talk about this. On the worst month, right? Your tires pop off, you got to replace your fridge, something crazy happens. Maybe your income didn't come in the normal way it does. What's the least amount you could put into this? Oh, 300. Great. Now on the opposite end, things are going great. Bills are paid off. You worked some overtime. You got a lot of money coming into the bank. What's the most you could put into this? Oh, 600. Great. So is it safe to say that 400 is like a no-brainer or yeah, 400 is fine. So hey, 400 is good. Again, you're getting married to this product. And I like stick here. I'll downsell them a little bit. I'll say, hey, again, this is a long-term product. This is going to compound over time. I want to make sure that this is absolutely comfortable for you. And I'll have them say it yes 3 or 4 times. Or if anything, I just stick to what their minimum amount is. Because I say, and this is actually key. This is gold right here. I'll say, I'll say, hey Josh, there's good news and there's bad news with the IUL. Okay. The good news is this protects you in 3 ways. It's very flexible. We just talked about it. And it's also flexible that if you get approved for 300, you could actually dump more money in to help expedite your cash value. So again, very flexible. Now, the bad news is that you do have to get qualified for it, and it's not very easy. These IUL carriers, I'm putting in applications all throughout the week, and not many people are getting it. And so I'm going to do my very best to help you, but that's the bad news. And again, I went over the good news. So now they know, hey, I could dump more money in. So you say, hey, Desiree, okay, I could put 300, and if I want to do 500, I can. Absolutely. And we'll give you that guideline. There is a range that you could, but it's a pretty big range. And so I'll let you know what that is so you could dump more money in to expedite your cash value.
You hit on a ton there, but it is all so good. And guys, I think it's not only like IUL, it doesn't really matter what you're saying or selling. It's the same exact thing. We're doing it on all fronts, right? Like it's our tonality, it's our fact finding. We got to ask the right questions and we got to lead the client to where we believe that they're going to get approved and two, that's in their budget. I think that's most important. So Desiree, with your carriers, who are you guys writing the most? I'm sure America's up there, but what are we writing? Where are we trying to put them?
Yeah.
If health aligns, where are we trying to put them?
Yeah, so like we just went over like our order of operation. This is very recent because I have most of my business through NLG and I was like, man, a new agent, it's just going to take a little while and the comp's lower. But anyways, right now it's Americo IUL. Because again, that's death benefit focus. We know that you can't really manipulate the cash value yet. Americo keeps saying, hey, we're going to give you a cash value function. When that happens, oh man, it's Americo all day. So Americo for death benefit focused. And if the person's putting like under like 150 or under a month, like I still might put them in there because you can't really grow significant cash value with that. And they could even dump like double the amount. So if somebody gets approved for 100, they could dump 200 to help grow the cash value in Americo. Okay, so Americo IUL, and then Mutual of Omaha, structuring it for cash value or death benefit, and we use WinFlex if we need to. And then Ethos, if anything. And the thing is, like Ethos, you can't really do splits with agents. So, and then NLG is our fourth one. So if I have a client who's like, oh, I'm going to put in $2,000 a month, I'll probably go NLG. I
Okay.
really like NLG.
Right.
So it really depends on their contribution amount. But for the most part, if you could fit it in Mutual of Omaha, send it with Mutual of Omaha because their max death benefit's 300,000. There's only so much you could do to exceed that death benefit. But Ethos goes up to 1 million, and I think NLG goes up to 2 million. But again, it's fully underwritten.
I love that. And guys, take again, I hope you wrote that down, but the NLG, like for the one off or, for the people that can contribute a bunch more, super healthy, younger, it's easier. But guys, I think a good rule of thumb, and I heard this from a ton of people, is like whatever their age is, we add a zero, right, Desiree?
Mm-hmm.
Like if they
Yeah,
can,
times 10. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it's like we can contribute that. And again, for the people that are like, okay, well, she's 58. She can contribute like 150 bucks. Like, guys, we got to get them approved for insurance. We got to get them coverage
Right.
for death benefit and make sure, because again, realistically, that client isn't contributing enough for it to do anything later on, right? Like, and that again,
Mhm.
that's where we got to do a good job on just going through the financial inventory and figuring out what's going to be best for them. Because I think a lot of us go into it, we're like, NLG is the best. I know NLG is the best. And
Yeah.
in reality, it's like you shot yourself in the foot because you might not have known, dang, I haven't done an American IUL. I don't know how to do it. And then we're just like forcing clients into what we know. And I'm sure
Right.
kind of run into that in the past too.
Yeah, and when you guys are doing a client inventory, and Josh said this really well, you guys are the financial professional. Don't ask the client. Sometimes the client's like, I want this and I want that. And I'm like, Bob, you're 75, dude. You can't get 500,000. And I will tell the client that. I'll be like, hey, look, I know this is the first time you've done insurance, but the way that this works is this, this, and this. I don't mind telling the client because I'm the licensed professional. You have to remember that. Even if you've never written a policy, you guys right now have a license that you took a test for. So you already know more than the client. And that's why we leverage our team a lot and being on Zoom because you have us to back you up and always be on Zoom. Put it in the chat. Don't try and run this by yourself. I mean, it's hard like carrying yourself all the way to the finish line. But when you do the client inventory, for example, and you ask the question, hey, Josh, do you have any private life insurance? Anything like that? He's going to say no, right? If he says no, I'm like, ding, ding, ding. I could really leverage the death benefit, right? And so if he does have a private policy, I need to ask the details. Great. Who do you have that with? Is that going to expire? Oh, it's a term policy. Ding, ding, ding. I already know I could get him a permanent death benefit. If we can't focus on the cash value, I'm going to leverage what he does not have. So it really matters how you're asking the client inventory because you're using all of those pieces to the puzzle to make the bigger picture in the end. And it matters again with finding out those details because if Josh wants cash value and he can only put $100 a month and he's 65, I'm going to be like, hey, Josh, you have no death benefit. We're really going to focus on this because you really worried about your daughter, Mary, having to take care of your funeral costs and all that stuff. And then also it comes with some living benefits if you qualify. So let's focus on that. And I take it away from the cash value and I'm like, you have no insurance. You have no death benefit. So I'll kind of highlight that as the financial professional because I did a very good job with my client inventory.
Desiree, that was like the easiest hour I've done on a call. And again, I think we could probably do another hour of training, but I'm going to be respectful of your time and everybody else on the call. Guys, give me a D for Desiree if you got something out of this. And please, I hope you took notes because this is something, again, this is for you guys. This is to apply to your business. And again, if you're not writing IULs, guys, guys, call the carriers, have the reps run you through some apps. Like it's not that deep, guys, and doing your own job. Because guys, Desiree, if I'm a new agent and I'm like, Desiree, I spoke with America, they walked me on how to structure an IUL, you're going to be pumped to work with me, right? You're going to be
I'm
like,
like, holy crap,
right,
resourceful, problem solver.
come
I want that
on.
guy. Yeah,
Well, like, guys,
yeah.
the agents that are like asking all the questions, I'm not mad, but at the same time, we are all independent. We all get paid a lot of money to do what we do. Be resourceful in your business. Because again, at the end of the day, this is your thing. This is your business. And Desiree, I appreciate you big time. You're a stud. And I know why you guys
Thanks,
are loving it.
Josh.
But
I
share,
appreciate that.
yeah, share what anything lastly for the team and what are your goals personally for 2025 in your team?
Yeah, I'm trying to 10x. So I mean the agency's doing like 100, right now and we're really buckling down and I kind of want to get the team to $1 million a month at the end of the year and I might bug you. I might be like, "Yo, Josh, you already did it." So like point out some things, but I know I just got to buckle down and just focus on the right people, structure everything of what we're doing right now. I'm really excited for it and I don't see why we can't do that. And then hitting Hall of Fame this year too. I just came from the corporate office. I did a corporate training and I freaking announced it. I was like, you better see me with a red jacket on stage. So those are like my personal and team goals. The last thing that I'll say to everybody, and maybe a lot of people have heard me say this before, but I think it's so powerful, is like Tony Robbins just said this. Everyone always thinks that knowledge is power, which is not incorrect, but knowledge is potential power. The
Mm.
real power lies with execution. So stop overthinking, guys, just do. Everyone's here to help you. We know what the action plan is. Just freaking do something, right? Execute, 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 and that's where the power is. So thank you so much for having me. It's calls like this that get people ahead. And again, training, but then put some action behind it and we're here to help you. Excited to see everybody at Ignite. Let's go.
Appreciate you. Anything Steven and I can do for you, please let us know. But guys, go apply this thing. Go apply it. Don't be a professional meeting attender. Get off this call and do something with it. Thank you guys. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next one. Let's rip it, guys. Thank you.